Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot. The comic spot. Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot.
So, you guys, welcome to interview number 926. Today's episode is brought to you by the Veterans of Comedy. That's a group of people who were in the military. They used to serve our country, and now they serve up jokes. So, when you need some funny, go to veteransofcomedy.com and find my picture and hire me.
Hey, you served our country?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We can never thank you enough.
Thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate it. Do you have military in your family, Sadia?
My grandfather was in the military. He was in the Navy.
Yes.
And my dad got an ROTC scholarship.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's the extent of it, as far as I know. He knows, like, way back. But serving our country is wonderful. I tend to be one of those, respect the soldier, hate the war kind of people. I can separate the two.
Me too.
It takes a lot of courage and sacrifice to put your life on the line or on hold, as the case may be. And plenty of people have opinions. Very few people have done it. So thank you for your service. And I leave it at that. You didn't make the decisions. You just carried them out. Like, I'll go do whatever I do on my own time.
Thank you. Yeah, people like to call the military baby killers. I went in 1973, and Roe versus Wade didn't start until about a few months after I went in. And I think the women in America did more of the baby killing than and I'm not pro or against it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, really. Like, if you're gonna attack, you're allowed to attack back, right? Just like
Yeah.
Ukraine. Ukraine was just sitting there, and Putin was like, "Nice country," so they're allowed to defend themselves.
Yes.
And so are you. When people call you a baby killer, hit them where it hurts.
Yeah. Well, when sometime you'll hear me do my military shtick when I'm on stage. I
would love
doing
that.
it. Yes. Okay, let me do your intro. Here we go. Sadia Carone. I believe that's how you pronounce your name. Sadia Carone.
In this country. Yep.
She speaks
Carone.
languages, you guys.
Carone, whatever. It's me, Sadia. Yep.
She is a SAG member and speaks several languages. We'll get into that. She has been on TV in Brazil, Spain, Japan, and France, as well as in the US. Sadia has done stand-up in New York, Los Angeles, San Diego, Las Vegas. She can play guitar. I know, I witnessed it. She's very good. And has been writing comedy songs. I've heard 3 of them now so far that are part of her act, which is hilarious. She is a college graduate and has worked as an English teacher and in the IT industry. Our guest today is quite the spitfire, Sadia Carone. Welcome her. Woo!
I'm welcoming you. Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
I'm so glad you're taking time for an interview. Oh my gosh.
Of course. This is important.
Yeah. We chatted and then we did the intro because I just like to make you feel comfortable before we do the left brain stuff. So,
smart lady.
Yeah, I started off doing these so stiff and they were so boring. But now I learned, I don't know, I just try to mix it up. So you're in Vegas now. You've lived here about 8 years, is that correct?
Yes, 8 years in October.
In October. Oh, wow. Birthday's coming up. We'll have to celebrate. So, yeah. So tell people how it's been adjusting in your, like coming here. Where did you come from and how has that adjustment gone?
That is a great question. And just the question itself indicates, that there is quite an adjustment. I'm trying to phrase this delicately. So my father's an attorney. He did his Harvard undergrad, and then he went to a much lesser known school for his law degree. So I'm the kind of girl where, like, if something's wrong, I will report it. You know, don't want to get too dark, but you remember Kitty Genevieve's back in New York that nobody called the cops. Everybody thought somebody else would. So I'll do it. You know, if something's broken, I'm not a Karen, I'm not a give me your manager, you know, but I'll quietly say, oh, hey, just so you know, that homeless guy's sleeping over there might scare some people, or hey, just so you know, there's water that's a tripping hazard, and then I bounce. You know, I'm not going to make a stink. So I've worked in a few call centers here, and there's this thing called the FCC, the Federal Communication Commission. And if you get called by a telemarketer and you say, take me off your list, they have to do that. It's like a $50,000 fine. Well, we were selling some product and people were constantly telling me, I said, take me off the list. You just called me last week. I'm like, no, that's impossible. Well, then I for myself had 2 leads that were identical. I'm like, oh, this is really bad. So I went to my boss. I'm like, look, I'm so sorry. I'm sure this was an accident. $50,000 fine each time. And she was like, oh, people forget. Just keep calling. And I was like, you're going to pay the fine, man, not me. But I felt really uncomfortable. So yeah, not too long after that incident, I was let go, of course.
Yep.
Of course. So I've had problems with that. I was a tour guide and that was super fun, but one of the rules was no alcohol, you know, because we're on a vehicle. I don't want to say the company name, although I do. And I was like, you know, it's not safe. You know, you can't stand up on this thing. Like, and some people are like, you know, you just want your money. We don't care about safety. We don't care about the rules. So I'm a little bit annoying that way. I have this like English teacher librarian vibe. I taught English in Europe and in South America, so I can speak with grammatic perfection and explain it all to you. I don't know when you got there last night, but one guy put in his set that Nevada schools are 49th in the nation. And his joke is, my textbook says there's only 48 states.
Isn't that funny?
It's sad and it's funny. So it's an adjustment for me. I grew up in a very conservative part of the country, and I've met girls that grew up here and they're like, oh yeah, little darlings, that 18 and plus strip club, they advertised in my high school. And I think my heart like stopped. So it is a very different city. You can be 21 working at a pool bar and making $2,500 a week. So they value different things overall as a city. In New York, they value success. They value education. You've got Cornell upstate, you've got Columbia, you've got NYU, you've got universities like everywhere. So this city is, if LA is dumb and pretty, you know, inherited money, daddy's money, Vegas is kind of like, I don't know, man, but you know, the fake boobs, like the perfect altered body and the connections. I guess what I'm trying to say is connections. I've seen people get jobs that they should not have or keep because their mom, dad, sister, brother, neighbor, cousin couldn't bring them to fire them. So that's an adjustment. People say, shut up, stay in your lane. I'm like, but breaking the law, like I can't. You can't discriminate on people on the basis of their, you know, dirtbag is not a protected class, but you know. So yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff. I worked in a hotel downtown and I loved it because again, tons of 5-minute friends and people trying to find Fremont and people trying to find this, what's the best restaurant? I remember, oh, it's a church. But again, I didn't realize that, you know, empty beds and horny people can make for a bad situation among employees. It would just never cross my mind. But yeah, I saw heard some. I didn't really see anything. That's not my jam, but heard about it.
Oh my goodness sakes alive. What a story. And so now you're teaching from home or with a company?
Yes, I have a business partner in Brazil. His name is Daniel. He definitely smells like comedy. He is super gay. And he lived in Ireland for about a year. So he's got the British English and I have the American English, and we're teaching English to students down there online.
Wonderful. That must be really rewarding.
It is. Brazil is bigger than the 48 states that are connected. I know there's Alaska and Hawaii. I know we have 50. But we teach Spanish in our schools. Nobody really bothers to learn Portuguese. The country is enormous and very underdeveloped in terms of natural resources and jewels and oil and gas and stuff. Their tourism, what they bring in from tourism is less than the Bahamas. So I feel like in a small way, not quite putting my life on the line like in the military, but I am doing something to help make the world better. When a Brazilian can speak fluent English, so many doors open. Hotel work or working at Disney, that's like what they all want to do, or coming to the States. So it is super rewarding. I speak Portuguese, but I make mistakes, and sometimes I do it on purpose to be funny. So it's a very relaxed class.
Oh, that's wonderful. So what are the languages you speak besides Spanish and Portuguese?
Yes. So we need to define speak. Like, does it come out of my mouth or can I hold a conversation? So fluent French and Portuguese, because I lived in France and Brazil, so there's no excuse. I say business level Spanish, but Spanish is tricky because a whole bunch of different countries speak Spanish and they all have their own lingo. There's Spanish from Spain, there's Spanish from Venezuela, there's Spanish from Ecuador, there's Spanish from Chile, there's Spanish from Argentina. And I've never been to any one of those. So I have a little bit of a whole bunch of them. I can definitely get the job done. I can do business in Spanish because I have. So, and then I can fake my way through Italian because it's so close to Portuguese. I helped Italian tourists in New York. They actually had a TV show in Brazil that had people speaking Italian, and they chose the words that like would be easy to understand. I gave directions in Italian. I was like, fuck it, I'll just use Portuguese. We'll figure it out. So, and then I can have like a basic conversation in Hindi. I got cast in some Bollywood films and I wanted to get it together. Spoken Hindi is 95% identical to Urdu. Urdu's written in Arabic letters and Hindi's written in their own letters. So you get 2 for 1 with that language. So can I do business? Absolutely not. Can I learn a script? Can I memorize a song? Can I kind of get it done? So I'm a beginner. And then I'm in the process of learning Arabic and Russian. So I can read pretty well. Like I can tell you what letters they are. I might not know what they mean. And the Arabic letters change depending on where they are in the word. So I'm like, I'll be 71 before I manage this, but it's a good brain challenge. You know, you got to feed new stuff in your brain, think some new thoughts.
You'll manage it just in time for Alzheimer's.
Now, when I get Alzheimer's, no one's going to understand me because I'll have 3 words of French, 2 words of Portuguese, 1 word of English, maybe a little bit of German. I'll just be stuck in a corner alone.
You'll be on your deathbed and your final words will be misinterpreted in 7 countries.
Get on that living will. Use some Google Translate.
Oh my gosh. Well, take us back in time to when you were little Sadia growing up in your family and in your school, grade school, high school. Paint us a picture of what you were like at home, how many siblings, what kind of crazy family, that stuff.
Oh, it might not be a very pretty picture. There's a reason why I got out. My mom was a school teacher. She taught 2nd grade, and I've seen pictures of her, and she was beautiful. And my dad was kind of the brains. I guess he was cute in his charming, nerdy way. He was not like drop dead gorgeous, but he had a certain little charm about him, I guess, from old yearbook photos and stuff. So my mom knew how to deal with very young kids. She miscarried 3 times before I actually showed up. So I guess I'm some kind of miracle rainbow unicorn, but there's some term for it. But I wonder, I was like, did I try 3 times and make it on the 4th? Or do I have 3 dead siblings? Like, I don't know. These are questions you think about. After me, 18 months later came my sister. And then 18 months after that came my other sister. So my mom was, dedicated to that baby making. Didn't even wait 2 years, 18 months later. So my mom was great with very, very young kids. She helped me learn how to read. She says, I recognize a store logo back then we still had the newspaper. I would see the ad in the paper for the store, and I would jump up and down on the ad and start screaming the name. So I knew, and I was 2 years old. So my mom was like, I think she understands that these squiggles mean that store. And we would go to the store and I would start screaming and pointing because, you know, the logo was out front. By the time I was 2.5, I could read almost 50 words. And, you know, Sesame Street, Electric Company, whatever. So I show up to kindergarten, I'm already reading at like the 3rd or 4th grade level. So yeah, I was nerdily annoying, I guess. I never caused any trouble at school. I was very good, but I was like reading stuff and talking about stuff. Nobody really knew what to do with me. Let's see, what was interesting. So yeah, just very, you know, the nerdy girl in the back reading the books. I wish people had bothered to teach me math. My mom did great with the words, because if I'd known math, they would have let me skip a few grades. But no one taught me fractions. They were pretty easy, just no one took the time. So I would say I was an annoying student just because I made more work for the teachers. They tried, you know, they wanted to show up and just teach and go home. And I'm like, and then my dad's a lawyer. So once I learned about the freedom of speech and the Constitution, you can't tell me to shut up. I'm an American citizen. I'm like 8 or 10 years old. How do you argue with that? Like, not till you're 18. No, I'm a citizen from birth. So I'm arguing with my lawyer dad from a very young age. Yeah, oodles of fun. My parents got divorced when I was in 8th grade. My mom cheated on my dad, so that was not cool. I believe if you're unhappy in your marriage, go tell your husband before you get naked with someone else. I know it's difficult, but don't have somebody lined up. You know, it was just shitty. It was just shitty all around. Then my dad got remarried, and I was like, being the oldest, unfortunately, my dad got married a year later. I was off to college. I was like, peace out, peace. Then my dad had a kid, and my middle sister and my mom had the youngest kid, so they each had a kid. And I would come home and just tip the balance, and it was so awkward. Like, I couldn't do anything I wanted. I had to fight with my sisters for the car. Always arguments like, where am I eating lunch? Where am I eating dinner? Whose house am I staying at? No one wants me anywhere. So I just kind of pieced out of that whole scene. After college, in college, I went to Paris for 2 years, which was amazing. And then after college, I joined this underground magazine called ... There's a really great art school in Philly. And each page of this magazine had its own graphic designers. This thing was like off the hook. We were a big deal. And we would print out like 500 copies or 5,000 or whatever. And we would distribute them, and we had t-shirts, and we were just like rebels. And I was doing poetry readings back then. You know, I was very academic. I was doing poetry readings. Yes. And writing nonfiction, and my fiction got published. And I was a pretty big deal. Like, people noticed. But then I got into grad school. So like I sent off my application to grad school in December. The magazine launches in January. I find out I get in, and like a lot of stuff was happening in Philly, but dumbass me, I'm like, oh, I need a PhD in French. I gotta, like, they're paying me to go. Like, I have to go. I really wish I had stayed and kind of ridden the wave in Philly. It would have been a much less painful and faster path to like find who I am. But I went off to Providence, Rhode Island for a miserable semester. Dropped out after some. It was horrible. It was so horrible. And went to New York, got a job in a cafe, and did the poetry thing, and met people who were dancers. And I'm kind of from the middle of nowhere. I'm like, you can get a degree in dance? Like, well, how do you think the people dance on Broadway? And they dance on Broadway. I was such a rube. I knew nothing. I was good-hearted, but God, I was dumb. And let's see, then I went to DC for a while, and that's where I got my first acting gig. Being a nerd actually helped. So a friend of mine had a hat on that said the Argonauts. I don't know if you're a Greek literature lady, perhaps you are. So it was some softball team at her law firm or some bullshit. But somebody said, I said, oh, Argonauts, do you know the story of Jason and the Argonauts? And she's like, I think I'm going to. And I was like, yes, you are. So Jason in ancient Greece had this band of like warriors called the Argonauts, and they went to get this thing called the Golden Fleece. It was some golden lamb thing, and he married like the local king's daughter, Medea. She helped him get this like golden thing, and then he brings her back home, and they all think she's a witch and she's psycho. I'm just rambling on with this amazing story, and some rando walks up and just stops. I'm like, wow, my storytelling skills are amazing. All those open mics have paid off. He finally lets me finish, my 10-minute saga journey to Greek mythology. And he says, hey, I wrote a play and I have 2 tickets. Do you want to come see the opening night? I promised I would give a ticket to the first person who said anything about theater. And although you did not specifically reference a play, close enough. It's DC, no one knows anything. I know the Greeks. I think Medea is actually the Greek play. He's like, so you're the lucky winner. And I was like, I have a boyfriend. Okay. He's like, I'm gay as fuck. I was like, and I think one of my friends knew somebody that knew him. So it wasn't like a complete rando. I was like, who the fuck are you? Like, are you gonna kill me? And then one of my other friends was like, oh, you're that playwright guy. So I went to the play. It was a small black box theater in DC, and it was interesting, didn't completely suck. And I clapped, and he said, I have a part for you in my next play. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you're perfect. Okay. So then I became an actor. And again, just like when I went to New York and I didn't know anything and I was really dumb. So I read plays, of course. I read Shakespeare. Moliere is like the French Shakespeare, slightly better than Shakespeare in my humble opinion. And so I've seen plays, I've read them, but I've never performed them. I did everything wrong. So one rule of theater is you don't wear your costume out in public. You don't want to confuse people. Well, my costume was from my own damn closet, so I would just wear it to the theater like I didn't know. And they had to like explain shit to me. And like I was with real actors, and they were talking about Shakespeare and like, oh, I love the Scottish play. Oh yeah, the Scottish play. I'm like, what? Macbeth? But it's bad luck to say that word in a theater for some reason. I'm like, I didn't know. I was such an idiot. But I learned there's this great organization in DC called the Actor Center. And the real actors said, oh, because I was actually pretty good at acting. I just didn't know like the rules and stuff. Like I learned my lines, I hit my mark. I was pretty good to work with. I was just dumb as shit about stuff you're supposed to know. It's like if someone got up and did comedy and I just broke all the rules, did everything wrong. So I get hooked up with this Actor Center thing. I learned what a headshot is. That's why I loved your dumb little joke. It's like, oh my God, I remember my first headshot was completely different. And they would teach seminars, kind of the way SAG will teach seminars if you're in New York or LA. The Actor Center would just teach them to anyone that joined. So I went and I started learning a lot of stuff. I eventually got elected to the board. Like that's my journey, like from complete fucking idiot to on the board of the Actor Center. I did some catalog modeling. I went to the theater bookstore and they're like, oh, we want you to wear some of our costumes. So like, yeah, suddenly now I'm a model. And it totally comes full circle because when I'm in Brazil, oh my God. Okay. So I love dancing salsa. That's my thing. I wanted to touch hot guys in a safe way. And you have to hold hands when you dance salsa. So that's what I learned. And I did get to meet a lot of really hot guys. So now I'm in Brazil and I'm like, do they have any salsa around here? I know it's Spanish. They're like, oh yeah, there's this club you should go to, it'll be great. I'm like, okay, great. So I have to get on a bus in Brazil, terrifying. And you have to take a cab home. I'm like, all right. So I'm dancing with this kid and he was like a pint-sized Ricky Martin. He wants my number, my cash for fine, here's my number, okay. So I hang out with him for a minute and one day, like 3 weeks later, he calls me. He's like, hey, my friend got cast in a play and he has to learn English and you're the only person who actually speaks English I know. Will you talk to him? I'm like, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. I'll talk to your friend, whatever. So I go to the friend's house. It's a play about the band Nirvana. And this kid sort of looked like Kurt Cobain if you squinted and maybe were a little drunk and turned your head sideways. Did not speak a fucking word of English and has to sing all the Nirvana songs. And I was like, okay, here we go. We had like 3 weeks to pull this shit off. And like a lot of real Nirvana fans ended up coming to the show, and with his accent, I was like, we'll just do the best we can. Like, you know, we need him. Like, we can't tell him about he sucks because then we won't have the show. And I'm with this kid for like 2 hours. His wife's there, his kid's there, and he suddenly looks at me sideways, and he's like, "Hey, Sadia, here's my script." I'm like, "Okay, here's your script." He's like, read these lines with me. I need you to practice lines with me. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Blah 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 blah. Well, I'm reading for the female lead, and I had trouble saying one of the words. The word for blonde is Loira, which I still can't say right. And then he looks at me and he's like, "We haven't found a female lead for this, and I like how you read that. So I have rehearsal now. I want you to come with me and read for the director." And what do? You say, "Of course, whatever. Okay, let's go." So we go, and I see him talking and kind of pointing at me, and they got big smiles. Oh, yeah. So then I read the part from the script. I'm like, okay, and I still can't say that one word. And then the director comes up to me, and it's so different down there. He's like, "So what's your pant size? Don't mean to be rude. What's your bra size? What's this?" I was like, "Okay, weirdo." It was like, you know, my waist. And then we leave, and the director just kind of calls to both of us, "Okay, guys, see you tomorrow at 3. I'm like, "What the fuck was that?" And the kid's like, "No, Sadia, you got the part." We auditioned 500 Brazilian girls. We couldn't find anybody. But he loves that you have an accent because we're supposed to be from Seattle. It's going to be perfect. You got the part. I'm getting this much money. You'll probably get the same. We're the stars because of one kid that I met at a salsa club.
Wow. What a story. What a story. That's fabulous. So you were born and raised in what city?
In Ohio. And I'm keeping the city a secret because they talk some crap about my mom.
So at some point you left home
to go to college in Philly. And then 2 years in Paris, took a year off because Paris was great. Graduated college, made the huge mistake of going to grad school. Then I was in New York, DC, New York, Brazil, New York, LA, Vegas.
Super duper. And you're only 24. Look at all you've done. Oh my God. So let's go from who you were and you stumbled into acting.
I really did.
And how did you stumble into comedy?
Well, if there's a theme, as you may have noticed, it's like, dude, I was just sitting there. So yeah, let's get some water, some Hello Kitty. Yes.
Ooh. Do you know who Sanessa Stevens is in Japan?
No.
She is the voice of Hello Kitty.
Dude, she's my spirit animal. Like, she's my superpower. Wow. Do you know her? Do you know her?
Yeah. Yeah.
Could I like
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Do it. Get to know her. She's amazing.
Should I learn Japanese? Because I'll start working the Google Translate. Like, I've got konnichiwa. My state, Ohio, literally means like good afternoon, I think, in Japanese.
Yes, so Ohio is a Japanese word.
It means like good afternoon, I think, or good morning. It's some sort of greeting.
It is. It is. Get to know Sanessa Stevens on Facebook. She's amazing.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Like a mentor type. You two will love each other.
Oh, wow. Sanessa. I'm sorry, what was the last name?
Soness. And her last name is Stevens. Stevens.
Awesome. Oh, her name sounds like sound. So it's amazing she does voiceovers. What a cool name.
She does some great stuff. She does. Well, she has. I could go on for an hour about stuff she does. You got to get to know her.
Oh, I will. There's a Hello Kitty cafe here by the T-Mobile. Have you been?
No.
It's like an oversized lunch truck, like the Partridge Family bus, kind of thing, situation going on. But take way more money than you think you need, because on top of the $7 coffee, like the $12 brownie, it's like, I need that shirt. I need that keychain. I need that toe peg. I need every fucking thing you have. Take my money. How much can I get? So delete the debit card at home because you still have to pay rent,
Oh my gosh, you and I have to hang out. That's all there is to it. You're so
Definitely.
fun.
Thank you. So how did I get into comedy? All right. So for the longest time, so once I break away from home, right? And I'm doing the whole art thing, just completely ditched the PhD. I was like, yeah, dude, I'm not feeling this. People have been telling me, like, Sadia, you're so funny. Oh my God, you are so funny. Even when I was doing theater in DC, because that one gig led to other gigs and other gigs. One time I had to introduce, like, I was like the MC of some theater thing, and I would make people laugh. And the director's like, I didn't like, how do you find comedy in this? I'm like, dude, it just happened. And I would be reading for like dramatic roles and making people laugh. And the director's like, I didn't know that line would be funny. Well, you didn't know you'd be me. So here we are. He's like, could you do it less funny? I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah. But so it just keeps happening. And I started joking about it. I'd be like, I wish people would say you should be a doctor because then you go to med school. I wish people would say you should be a lawyer. You should go to law school. You should be an accountant. You go get your CPA. You should be a stockbroker. Where the fuck is the comedy school? Like, what? How? Kind of like as dumb as I was, like, oh, people dance on Broadway? Like, that's a thing? Like, you can go to college for that? That's so cool. I was like, dude, like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. So I'm just kind of complaining randomly to the universe for long enough. And in New York one day, I get this temp job. And that's what we all do. Paid $18 an hour, probably 24 now. And you're a secretary for a day, or we had to work some convention, something where we did nothing. And I start talking. It's me and this other guy, and he was cool. He became a Jehovah's Witness to get back at his hippie parents. It's the only way to be a rebel. And we're just talking, it's not nice to brag. So if your parents have money, you're not going to lead with that. If you are a famous stand-up comedian, you're not going to lead with that. If you are a former Miss America, I'm not, you're not going to lead with that. So we're just hanging out talking, talking bullshit about the job. And, oh yeah, look at that guy, I bet he does this or that. So after lunch, his name was Justin, I think. It was a long time ago. He was like, you're really funny. I was like, God damn it. I'm probably not the response I wanted. You're really funny. You should be stand-up. I'm like, fuck. I'm sick of people telling me I'm supposed to stand-up. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to do it. I don't know where to start. He's like, Sadia, calm down. I'm a stand-up comic. I was like, oh, wait, what? How? Explain. What? How? When? Who? And he's like, okay, so I'm going to tell you. I was like, dude, I am beyond ready. So I forget where the place was, but other comics have heard of it. It was some hotel where all the comics go. You get there like midnight, you put your name in a hat. So yeah, I would go on stage at like 2:30 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. He's like, I'm going to go do this thing tonight. You can come see me. I'll put you on the guest list. You can do this. So come see me for free and then go to this thing and tell that funny story that you just told me. I'm like, okay.
What city was this in?
This was New York.
Okay.
And he says, Sadia, when you perform, it's full of comics and they never laugh. Okay. I want you to get your trial by fire. So get up there and you're going to bomb. I'm like, what does that mean? He says, no one's going to laugh. I'm like, oh, that's bad. He's like, well, it's called stand-up comedy. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, got it. So I go and see him. And, he was one of a couple comics. I'm like, oh, yeah, I can do this. So then the next night I go. And as I'm sure you know, there's not a lot of women in comedy. No. And there's not a lot of remotely attractive women. I mean, you're gorgeous. So putting yourself in an environment with a bunch of broken, sad men at 2 a.m. means a couple of things. Way too many unfunny dick jokes. Like, seriously. There was this kid who would get up, and this was his whole act. There's a brand of meat called boar's head. Very famous. His whole act, ingrained in my mind, because I've probably heard it 100 times. Boar's head. Here's an idea. Why don't they sell actual meat from a boar? I just boar's head, sell ham. Imagine boar's head by boar's head. I've heard that so many times. It's in my DNA. And I'm like, that's literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So I'm like number 87 or 214. I gotta get some really shitty number. And I'm like, fuck. But I have to stay because I told Justin, and Justin's gonna come, and I have to get up and I have to do well. And so I'm like, oh crap. So they finally call my number. There's like 30 people left. I'm the only girl. I get up on stage as he walks in, and I'm doing my bit, and I somehow get a lot of laughs. I think I nearly fell off the stage, which was funny and by accident. And then he walked in, and I said, oh shit, now I have to be funny. And somehow everyone laughed at that. And they laughed at my story. And I got off the stage, and he was like, that was amazing. And I'm thinking, this fucking sucks. Like 4,000 big jokes at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my God.
But that's how I got my start, and I loved it. You know, the stage is where I feel most at home. Of all the places I've been and all the couches I've crashed on, dance floor, theater, comedy, singing, karaoke, you know, the stage when you just feel the light kind of shining.
Yes. Oh my gosh. What's some of the best and worst experiences along your way in comedy that you've had, or people that have helped your career?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I want to give a lot of shout outs. So I fell into a job with Matt Taylor in LA. I don't even know how I met him. Craigslist ad, friends or I, you know, you kind of, the details get a little like fuzzy. Matt's brother owns the Comedy Store, and Matt was a violinist from like Pittsburgh or something. And his brother was like, hey man, you need to do comedy. It'll be hilarious. It'll be awesome. So I worked with Matt Taylor and Justin Work and a bunch of other guys, but I crashed on Justin's floor for like 3 months when I had no place to stay. So Justin Work, woo, Matt Taylor, woo. And we would get together, and I would make phone calls to book people for these shows and do this and do that. And as part of my pay, because I did get paid, it coached me on comedy. Matt was like, Sadia, you're funny, but no one knows where to laugh because you're telling your jokes wrong. They're funny, but you need to step by step punchline. I'm like, well, I don't know what the punchline is. Like, well, I do. I'm like, okay, fine. So they helped me structure it better. And I got time on stage. So I performed in the 2 big rooms at the Comedy Store, not through any particular merit. I mean, I'm funny and they coached me, but it's not like they reached out to me. It was part of my job, my pay. And then we went to Madhouse in San Diego, and they let me host. So that was great. And the club manager came up and gave me his card. He's like, anytime you want to host here, give me a call. Like, well, I still don't have a car. I love Madhouse. It's a great venue. So that was like very affirming. And it was good to have my probably 6 comedy brothers, because we would show up at like Ice House in Pasadena, and we go straight to the green room. It's not like Wise Guys where we're all just kind of hanging out. And I think Justin, he was like my big brother, because, you know, I'm crouching at his place on his floor or the couch, or, you know, he was over there, I was over here. He was in love with some girl in Texas. So yeah, nothing, no funny business, nothing weird. But we would watch comedy movies all the time. We're constantly talking about comedy. But Justin would go in, and, you know, you see a 5'10" blonde walk into the green room, and all, you know, you felt the atmosphere change, shall we say. And Justin would be like, this is Sadia. She's not fucking any of us. She's not going to fuck any of you. Are we clear? And if you so much as look at her sideways, we will take you back and fuck you up. Thank you. Thank you. So that was good, because I could have been the hooker, you know, who knows what they were thinking. So that's really when I started to fall in love with comedy, because New York, I just didn't want it badly enough. I hit a point where, you know, Justin, the first guy who got me into comedy, he would get contacted by agents for acting gigs, and he couldn't do someone else's words and make it funny. Well, crap, I was an actor before I was a comedian, so I can do anybody's fucking words and make it funny. Because whenever you go to an audition, they always tell you to read it differently to make sure you can act. Anybody can read and convey emotion. The casting director told me that. He's like, it was in a workshop. He said, it doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. We just want to see you can take direction. So no matter how great it was, now do it angry, now do it sexy, now do it whatever. Wow. So he couldn't get acting jobs, even though he was funny. Like, Ray Romano was a comic before he was an actor. Seinfeld was a comic before he was an actor. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, she got her start on SNL. So I was like, well, maybe that's the way I'm going to get a sitcom. But you just hit a point where it's like, it's 2 a.m. I'm the only girl in the room. I don't want this badly enough. I cannot hear another fucking hour. I just can't. we'll have to find another way. So I just started going to Wise Guys in January. In LA, one night, yeah, whatever. Matt Taylor and I needed to part ways. We just had different priorities. Great guy, super grateful to him, very smart guy, great guy. He has a huge following. People love him. But that part of my journey had passed. And so it's just something that you can't do alone. In New York, when I was dancing salsa, I went to salsa class for 3 months first. So I had a ton of friends. So any club I would go to, I would at least know 4 or 5 of the guys. And then, you've got some backup. Didn't really want to launch myself into the Vegas comedy scene alone, just because, so a friend took me to Wise Guys and I was like, wow, this place is amazing. No heckling. People are nice. The comics are good. Everyone's kind of, friendly. I was like, okay, I'm in. So I've been going consistently, and I've been encouraged to go to some other places. I feel like I'm cheating on Wise Guys. I'm like,
No, you do. You do.
They're not doing anything on a Thursday night, so I guess it's okay. They're like, so I'm starting to branch out. I've booked a gig. I'm not sure when it is in July because they don't know when it is in July. It's I'm going to be featured, and it's either like the 7th or the 14th, something like that. They do music and comedy, so I'm both. I go both ways in that sense. So they're super excited. So things are starting to happen. I also have to give a shout out to Julie Goldman. She's a casting director out here. And if you don't know her, write this down. Goldman and Associates. But only share it with the good people, because Julie Goldman is just like a saint. She's literally God's gift to actors in this town. Whenever a big SAG film comes to LA, Julie books it. And whenever I'm on set, eventually we all start talking about how much we love Julie. Julie is amazing. She takes very good care of her actors. When I was new in town, I booked some random thing, and everyone, oh, you're new, you gotta talk to Julie, you gotta go over here, you gotta do this. And I was SAG when I got here. So Julie booked me on this film, the Brad Pitt film, The Big Short. Big deal. Filmed at the Bellagio. And I was super excited, of course, money, the good food. And then the night, so she booked me a few days in advance. The night before, I get a call. Sadia called me right away. Sadia, I'm so sorry. They cut one of the SAG spots. And I took it like a man. I said, Julie, absolutely no problem. This is not your fault. I want what's best for the show. Of course, Julie, just think of me next time. And she was so happy, because I was so professional. She was like, you know what? No one does this to you. I'm calling those people up and they are putting you on that show, on that film. And I was like, Julie, no, it's okay. It's just like, no one's going to do this to you. Oh. And I got the job, and I had this very cute little suit because it was the Bellagio. We had to look nice. And at the time, Uptown Funk was a really huge song. As I'm strutting my ass into the Bellagio, this dude with a girl starts singing, "This is that ice cold, Michelle Pfeiffer, that ice cold." And I'm looking around, and he's like, "Bitch, I'm singing to you." So I was looking pretty good. If you blink, you'll miss me, but I did see myself in the film. But that's just what Julie does. I was on a shoot that Julie booked me on downtown, and it went till 5 a.m. And I had to be at South Point at like 9 o'clock the next day. So I literally get home because I'm a bus girl. I had a half an hour to sleep, and I turned around and I had to get on a bus to get to South Point to not be late. But these are the things that we do for Julie. Julie is as wonderful as you are, Linda. I haven't known you very long, but I can't believe that you don't know her. She books union and non-union. Just bring a pen when you go to the shoot. Bring either your passport or your social security card and your ID. I have a passport card. It's the size of a credit card. It works. It's great. Just don't be a jerk. Not you. I'm talking to the general public. You know better. Bring a pen. Guys never bring pens, and they always ask me. And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, no, I don't. I'm not your mom. I gave my pen to her. Yeah, that's my business. Bring your goddamn pen. Like, it, bitch. But get from the pen. And don't bug the people on set. The only time you can talk to the production assistant is, I'd like to go to the bathroom. Do I have time? And they'll either say yes or no. Not when it's lunch, not how long is it's over. Don't bug the stars. Don't take pictures with the stars. Your furniture. No one cares what you think. Shut up. Like, if you want to direct, go direct, but just shut up, watch, and learn. You know, you can learn so much. Of course, we have opinions. Of course, we have ideas. You have to understand they're not giving us all the information. Well, why did they pick her? Why did they pick me? And I want to go to there. Yeah. Just get up and move from that person. Don't be that person. They say bring changes of clothes. Bring motherfucking changes of clothes. If they want 2 changes, I bring 4, because that's how I am. I will lug a suitcase that looks like I'm going away to Europe for a month, because I want to be easy to work with. The wardrobe people always love all the crap I bring, and they usually pick from my own stuff, which is great, because when it's time to go home, you don't have to deal with wardrobe. So if it says bring 2 changes, for the love of God, bring 2 changes. One time I got cast on Glee, and I had to wear closed-toed shoes. And this is in LA. Who the fuck has closed-toed shoes in LA? I had to wear my rain boots, and they're like shiny black. But in my defense, I was one of 300 non-union extras. I sat in an auditorium that was dark because the kids were performing at sectionals. So it's not like my shiny boots were going to ruin the scene. Like, you couldn't even see my shoes. It's all I had. You know, the money goes up and down, and I just didn't have any closed-toed shoes that weren't sneakers, right? You know, we had to be a little fancy. And the wardrobe's lady is like, "Are those rain boots?" And I said, "Do you want them to be?" I had on a really long skirt. I was like, "I can hide my shoes with either that or flip-flops. Sorry." That's my one wardrobe catastrophe. But yes, Julie Goldman is a saint among women. She is absolutely wonderful. Everybody loves her. So, Facebook people, if you find Julie, don't be an asshole, because that's not cool. She is amazing. You're the asshole, okay? If anyone is wrong with anything with Julie, it's you. She is amazing. Just be honest. I unfortunately had to turn down some work because I don't have a car, and it's hella far away. I can't give too many details, but it sucked. It was, you know, $400 worth of work. I was honest. I was like, "Julie, I don't have a car. I don't know how much an Uber is going to be." She's like, "Oh my God, my Uber from the airport was $100. Sadia, I can't do that to you. I can't." I'm like, "Julie, for you, I will hitchhike." She's like, "No, Sunny, it's okay. I'll sleep overnight at the place to be there on time for the morning." Julie, like, "Whatever you need from me." But in the end, we both kind of decided probably not the right choice for me. You are never late. They tell you to be there at 8:30. I'm there by 8 or 8:15. So these are the rules. You know, the same way for your set, you never go over 3 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever they give you. You always be super early. Bring what they tell you, and bring your own food. That's a pro tip.
Wow, awesome. That was very inspiring. And funny at the same time. Now do it in Spanish.
Entonces, yo ya hablé sobre Julie Goldman. Por favor, no sé. It would take some work. Portuguese and French would come a little more easily. But yeah.
So tell me, like, we're winding up on an hour here, and before we sign off, I want you to tell people what it is you want to accomplish in your life before you get old and kick the bucket like I'm going to do before you.
Okay, we don't know about that, because I see you as someone who's going to live to like 250. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. What do I hope to accomplish in this world? Well, wow, that's a deep question. I would like to see everyone with enough food and a safe place to live and free access to education. I believe if you're going to put in the time to learn guitar or learn a language or learn a skill, you should have that opportunity. It bothers me that, you know, for years and years I wanted to learn guitar, but you need to buy a guitar to play the guitar. So it took a stimulus check for me to get my first guitar. There's a story I didn't get to tell you about the guitar store, Rando. He gave me 2 guitars.
Wow, no way.
So I would hope to, I've accomplished a lot in my life. I don't want to say like I'm done, but, you know, being the small town girl in Ohio, I lived in France. I got my SAG card. I've been to Brazil. Like I've done a lot, but not everybody has those opportunities. So many people want to come to the States and simply can't because they can't afford a tourist visa or that they can't get one. So I would hope that, good, honest people with good intentions would have the opportunity to travel and have access to education. I would like to make the arts more accessible, like as a career. Why did I flounder for so long, not knowing how to get started in comedy? You kind of have to know someone. If you want to be an actor, you kind of have to know someone to learn about SAG and how to get your card. So coming from nowhere to the big city kids, they know people. They always know people. Their family knows tons of people. My dad was a lawyer, so I know some lawyer stuff. Maybe they don't know that, but I would like to make the arts and entertainment and creativity more accessible to everyone.
Oh, that's awesome. You mentioned that the very first thing you said is you'd like to see that people have enough food and water.
Yeah.
I just wanted to encourage you. I'm going to be working on a project with the two gals from the Jackie Mo show. Do you know them?
No, I don't think so.
So they're going to be taking up a project and trying to go big time to make sure that the world has enough food and water and elicit funds from the uber rich.
I'm down. I'm totally down. If I had enough money to buy Twitter, I would slap solar panels all over this country. Like I would not build a rocket ship. I would not try to get away from the earth. I would try to heal the earth.
Yeah.
So I would love to work with them.
Yeah. Get a hold of the two gals, Lisa Haas, Haas, and Jackie Monahan from the Jackie Mo show. And you should tell them that you should be on their show or ask them if you can be on their show. You're hilarious. They do they have a wonderful show.
This is the Jackie Mo show. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's out of Flappers. I'm not sure.
Oh, in Burbank.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, it might sound better if you tell them I should be on their show.
I know. I don't have that kind of clout. I stumbled into it and they like me. So I get to help them raise funds for poverty, food and water for people. But
it's the women who think like that. The men are like, let's build a rocket ship and get away from everybody. We haven't even explored the bottom of the ocean. We only know what 3% of the ocean looks like. Like, can't we figure out the earth first before we go fuck up Mars? I mean, pardon my French.
It's so true. And we're going around the world and we're doing things for other countries and our bridges are falling apart. I can't even walk on the sidewalk without tripping. Give me a break.
I don't want to say this the wrong way. You are awesome. Okay, you're absolutely awesome. But there was a generation, we saved Europe in World War I, then we saved them in World War II. But then we got a little cocky because nobody wants to talk about Korea. Nobody wants to talk about Vietnam. So we're the protectors of the world. Dude, no, we're not. We were like 100 years ago, maybe. And we were very different back then. And the world was very different back then. So we got to get our own house in order.
Right.
We got to clean up the BTC. So we can start there.
Absolutely. More people respect Jane Fonda from Vietnam than they do the soldiers.
Yeah, that's
just saying.
No, it's true. It's true. Soldiers hate her. I was working in DC and I was gonna go do some comedy, something, and Jane Fonda was gonna speak, and I was an idiot because I didn't know that soldiers hate her because I didn't know all that stuff. And I said, yeah, Jane Fonda's gonna be there, pretty cool. And they're like, I'm not Fonda Jane. I'm like, oh, why? And then they explained. I was like, oh, what a bitch. What a confused lady. I'll just put it that way. Again, love the soldier in a spiritual way, guys. I'm not, hooking up with soldiers constantly. Respect the soldier, love the soldier, hate the war, but don't put soldiers' lives in danger. Like, that's just fucked up. You don't go to the enemy and betray your fucking country. That's bullshit. Sorry, Jane. That was fucked up and bullshit and not cool at all.
So thank you so much for finally, I found somebody that gets it.
Yeah, dude. Hey, if they let us do comedy together, like, fuck the comedy. Like, we'll find a way to make it funny. But we need to straighten people out about this because I know we keep trying to say goodbye. And I'm like, blah, 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 blah. You know what the most fucked up thing is? Some bitch during the Vietnam stuff, she waited at the airport back before they had airports, we just kind of walked down like a stairway, like back in the olden days. It's like, hi, here's all right. This bitch went to the airport with a gun and just shot some random ass soldier. She's like, my son didn't come home. You can't either. I'm like, like, what? Dude, like, hell is not bad enough for her.
Wow, that's crazy. That's so crazy.
It's just like, that is wrong in 100 ways. So that's like, I'm like, no, that is not cool at all. I'm
Not
sure you have
cool at
stuff
all.
to do. We will hang out. We will definitely hang out. We're like,
We see
Wonderful.
eye to eye, girl. We're on the same page.
I keep looking at you and not at the camera like I'm supposed to. So I apologize to the video, but it's more polite to look at you.
I do it too. If I look at myself, I'm like never happy with what's going on. And I don't like, I'm supposed to look at this dot and I think I look
Yeah.
crazy.
Exactly. So I'm going to be polite and let you go, even though I really don't want to, but I have to follow the rules. This has been amazing. I'm going to message you and see if we're going to the same place later tonight. Okay.
Yes, perfect. Love you.
Thank you. This has been awesome. Thank you so much.
So great. One of my favorites. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.